yes, if I was 26 and death came to me and offered me a chance to accomplish all the things that I wanted to with my art, and I didn't think I could do it otherwise. I mean, the real me would have been like, oh, I'm going to do this anyway, never mind, get out of it. But I mean, if I really thought like my protagonist, I couldn't do it without it, I would have taken the deal. I would have lived for 200 days and made what I thought was the best art I was capable of making. I would have done it. I wouldn't do it now. Stupid idea.
Why should you remain without setting?
Well, yeah, exactly.
So then, did you ever think, because the whole story plays in New York, of course, where you haven't ever lived, as far as I know.
I did live in New York when I was young.
Okay.
But only for a short time, less than 2 years. And then I lived near New York for a while later than that. But I went back to New York a lot while working on it.
But it plays in a very particular New York scene, like in the fine arts scene. You don't have those mean art critics with German names and other critics, but you have all those today, say all those hipster guys hanging up with trying to become artists, and it's all about networking, which is one of the biggest problems of David Smith at the beginning. So I was wondering, why did you ever think about characterizing him as a comics artist to bring even more of your own work, or wouldn't it have worked?
I don't think it would have worked as well for him to be a comics artist, because then it becomes more about comics culture. In some ways it isn't even really about the art culture, because the truth is my character stays on the outside of the art world most of the time. And that idea of the sort of the shark-infested waters of the New York art world, the idea that everyone's mean, or they're all, you know, people sleeping with other people, it's true, but a lot of that also is in his head. You know, this is how he sees the world. He sees all of these things arrayed against him, and he doesn't necessarily want to see how much he's his own worst enemy. You know, how much his real limitations come from within him. Now, there are some real genuine, I mean, like there's an actual genuine kind of betrayal, let's say, that has more to do with those sort of relationships and networking. But in the end, I didn't really want to say anything particularly about the art scene in New York, because the truth is, most artists all over the world, anywhere, in Chelsea or Berlin or like any place, we're all doing the best we can, you know? And I think most of the galleries in New York probably are losing money every day and are done for the love of it. Yes, of course, there's some cynicism. Yes, you know, you have the $12 million sharks, but I think for the most part, there's actually a little less cynicism than people usually think.
And just in striving to become the artist he always wanted to be, he then meets death and then sells his soul and gets 200 days. And then he becomes, in a way, a superhero.
Yes, it's true.
So in a way, it's a superhero. You are returning to your roots because you've drawn superhero comics and you've been a texter for Superman comics.
Yes.
So and there's much of superhero story in it as well. And perhaps we can have a look at, I think it's page 98 in the German edition. 96. So that's what he's able to do with his superhero power.
Exactly. Yeah, here, if you look in the page right before, you can see in this panel up here on the right, you can see that moment where he's got this granite block. Yes, he's a stone sculptor. I know if anyone is an actual sculptor here in the room, you will know that nobody really sculpts with stone anymore. When we think of stone sculpture, we think of, you know, tombstones and lawn ornaments, you know, little garden gnomes. Right? There are a few stone sculptors, they're very rare. He chooses it because he's a masochist, but also because I'm a cartoonist, and I know that nothing says sculpture like, right? So I couldn't resist, right? So there he is, he goes up to this granite block, and he says, "Granite, you stubborn old bastard. And he puts his hand there. But this is a very important panel, right, where he puts his hand on the block. You see how there are no words in that panel? That's because I don't want to say anything about granite in that panel. I just want you to take a moment to just close your eyes and go, granite. I remember granite. I know what granite feels like. Just think about that. Think about it. You got it? Granite? Okay, good. Now, then he takes his hand away, and then we have the pen. See? And this is what he can do. This is his superpower. But that idea of the superpower, you see, this is why it took so long to do it. I had this, I knew it was a good story in my 20s, but all the way through my 30s and all the way through my 40s, I couldn't bear to do it because I thought comics are so much more than superpowers. Because I was denying my heritage, I guess. I don't know.
But what I thought when I looked first time at this panel was, I think he wanted to do the whole novel only to make this panel. because it's not only because it's a superhero, superpower panel, because I think there's the whole Scott McCloud comics theory in a nutshell in that image. Why? Because all you did, the main thesis in understanding comics and reinventing comics in a way and making comics was that comics have to do something with time and temporality. And so you have to freeze movement, and then you have to make continuous panels, and then the movement is reinstalled in the continuity of the panels. And here you have a frozen moment, but the thing is, it stays frozen. So no continuity of any panel of any panel sequence can bring back the movement, which is frozen in itself. So this is, and at first glance you think, what happens next? How will those forms morph in the next panel? But they don't morph anymore. So it's a perfect image of the whole Scott McCloud comics theory.
That's really good. Yeah, I think you're right on that one. And you know what? It's echoed elsewhere in the book. I mean, he does a number of sculptures that are about taking fleeting moments and trying to make them concrete. You're taking time. Time is flowing through at all times. All other art forms, prose, movies, theater, they just flow. It's always now, and the future is just anticipation. And the past is just memory. It's only in comics that past, present, and future are all around you. What are you doing? You're catching time, like you're catching a fly with your hands, and you're saying you thought that you were temporary, you thought you were fleeting, but no, I'm making you permanent. And it's placing an anchor here in the world. That's what comics does. That's what he is trying to do, is to place some kind of anchor in the world, because to him, it's just this river. And we're all being washed away in it. He wants to grab hold of the riverbed. He wants to grab hold of that rock and not let go, so he won't get washed away. And that's what's happening here. Yeah, good one. I like it.
So and then because hands and feelings, and the feelings you have your hands are so important. I'd like to have a look at the very first pages after the introduction.
Sure.
There's a short, not the very first page, but the first page of the first chapter. That's perhaps you can tell us a bit about why do you start your story this way? Because there are images which do not seem to relate to each other at first glance, and then you don't have a splash panel like everybody else would have. So you have a very, very narrow panel. There come very wide open panel in the course of the book, but not the beginning. The beginning is very narrow, and you don't see a face. You just see hands at the second page.
Yeah, I think that is. Well, partially it's the fact that I see storytelling. It's like the magician's act, you know. When a magician begins his act, he might do it. The old style magician, like cartoonists. Cartoonists always think about it this way. Magicians don't even look like this anymore. They don't wear top hats or whatever. But but the old sort of like look, like you start by like holding something up or like holding a card. And what you're doing is you're saying, okay,